Well, Mary, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Mike.
And can you tell us your full name, please, and what do you do?
I'm Mary Gallagher, and I'm a stand-up comedian, actor, and writer.
All right, excellent. And I know that you teach at the SAC Conservatory, and you teach stand-up comedy and wellness for actors. Can you just elaborate on that, please, and explain what that is for us?
Absolutely. So I teach stand-up comedy, and I've been doing that for a couple of years, but I noticed with a lot of people that I work with stand-up comedy, they said, Mary, you're like a therapist for comedians. And I was like, oh, okay, that's neat. So I just started to kind of bring more of the emotional connection and kind of like exploring our well-being through using stand-up comedy. It just kind of happened to be something that just started to come up a lot when I was doing just workshops on stand-up comedy. I just noticed people, wanted to kind of maybe talk about how they were feeling with what they were doing. I like to ask them about how they're feeling with what they're doing. So this just kind of organically came.
Okay, and is it a class where you teach actors how to become a stand-up?
It is. For some, it's just kind of exploring stand-up. Some people come to my workshop and they just kind of want to know, like, maybe some basic ideas about how to do stand-up comedy. And others are looking to see how it might help them as an actor, like maybe just having a couple of jokes in their back pocket when they go into, a really tense room for an audition. They want to know about joke structure, maybe talking a little bit about their voice and, how to kind of like take your opinion and put it through material. So they come for all different reasons.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. And I went to the Groundlings for 3 months. I took A, B, and the basic. So is it the same or is it totally different?
So I think there's elements of improv and sketch within stand-up comedy. I think when you're doing stand-up, you are hopefully, having a conversation with the audience. You're listening to see if you're landing with them, and you are also listening to what they're giving back to you, whether that's laughs or boos or someone's dropping a plate. So I think definitely elements of improv really do come into play with stand-up comedy. And sketch, I think, is just great because you're creating characters, you're using also your ability to act, and that also is, in my opinion, can be a big part of being a stand-up comedian.
So what inspired you to pursue a career in stand-up comedy?
Well, I saw a stand-up comedian on David Letterman when I was about 19 years old. His name was Wayne Cotter, and he did this set, and I just thought it was absolutely perfect. And it really intrigued me. I memorized the set, and that kind of taught me timing, and he's got really great joke structure. So that really was the first time that I was able to see someone do something and then memorize it and kind of feel it by doing the set. I do it for my friend, and I didn't do it like on a stage in front of people, but I did it for my friend. And it just got me really, really interested. It was like this math equation. It's just absolutely perfect set that made sense from beginning to end. It was flawless. So that really got me interested.
All right. And
Yeah.
do you also act?
I do. Yeah. I've been an actor for about 30, 35 years. I do a lot of television, some film, and a lot of commercials.
Oh, okay. That's awesome. And if I can ask you about how do you get the material and where do you draw your comedic inspiration from?
Well, Mike, I'll be taking it from this right here. This will definitely come into a joke at some point, being here with you tonight. Let's see. I get it anywhere. I get a lot of jokes while I'm driving. I don't know why, but usually when I'm driving, something comes to me. So I'll always be like, hey, Siri, text Mary Gallagher. And then I'll text myself the joke. Yeah. And
Right, fun guy.
it's hilarious. But yeah, I'll get it from everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah. When you least expect it is when it comes upon you. When you think, oh, I'm going to sit down and write a joke, probably not going to happen.
Okay.
But yeah, just, just living your life. Everything is absolutely hilarious and uncomfortable.
And I think I saw a video of George Carlin, the late George Carlin, and
Yeah.
he said that, it's everything is in front of you, but the only difference between me and other people, I have a pen and a paper. And everything I see, I just write it down.
Yeah, it really is. And it's funny, no matter what the technology is today, like we all have our phone on us, right? I can use hands-free to say something. I still love carrying a little tiny pen. I got this little tiny pen off Amazon that's about that big that works really well, and like a 3x5 card in my pocket. Like I always like to have that because there's something about writing it that is just much more pleasing than for me putting it into my phone. It never seems as funny as when I put it into my phone.
Okay.
But maybe that's on me.
Okay. And I know being a comedian is tough. Well, that's what they say. I don't know. Is it true?
I mean, I don't know. I think, I don't know. It's such a difficult thing to talk about. I don't know why that is. I think because anything can be tough, right? I mean, if you're in it long enough, I'm assuming you're going through a lot of highs and lows. I think I heard Jerry Seinfeld recently say that what's tough is aging and having new material for every stage of your life. It's not like you just create material in your 20s and then you're able to do that when you're in your 50s. You know what I mean? So I think if you have the ability to keep exploring who you are as you go through life, that can be tough and also really rewarding. It's kind of stand-up is kind of what I use to process things, especially traumatic events or difficult situations. I kind of use stand-up comedy as like a rehearsal to kind of rehearse how I want to show up in my life, but I got to go through all that awkwardness to find out what is it that I'm saying or what do I think of this. So yeah, it can be tough, but I don't think it's tough for the reasons that other people think. I think people think, oh, you're on stage and you're out there by yourself and like that's so scary. That's not really the tough part. The tough part, I think, is longevity and figuring out how you're going to evolve and grow with this art form.
Okay. Because, yeah, a lot of people think it's tough because you need to make other people laugh and, be funny. And
Yeah.
they think that's the tough part.
Exactly. But you've already committed to that. You know what I mean? If you're a stand-up, you've already committed to the fact that, yeah, you're going on stage to get laughs. It's not like you're 10 years in and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I can't figure out how to get laughs. So that I feel like that's a given. So it may seem difficult for outsiders, but once you're in it, that's just like part of what it is that we do. And, you learn basic joke structure and you know that the more you get up in front of an audience and you test out stuff, you're going to find out if it's funny. So for me, that's not the difficult part. I'm not saying that that's not hard to figure out how to get laughs, but it's not tough.
Okay. Okay, because when I went to the Groundlings, I know it's a little bit different, but they said don't go for the joke. Just, go with not because there's no script, but I forgot what they said exactly, but they said don't go for the joke. The joke will come by itself, something like that.
Well, I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm guessing what they were alluding to is that if you are being honest and you're staying as real as you can, real life is so funny, right? I think what we relate to is what is true and real and kind of universal. So I think if we try to kind of go for a quick hit of a joke, the audience can kind of feel that, like that's a little kind of slapsticky or, kind of a trick. But if we're really tapped in and really connecting, the jokes start to come because life is just so full of uncomfortableness and hardship, and then we relate to that. Yeah, so I'm assuming that's what they were talking about, is try to stay authentic and connected and you do learn how to, create jokes, but if they come out of the real base that you've built, oh my gosh, it's so much better than if you just try to kind of write something clever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, now, how did your comedy, evolved over the years, and what kind of experiences have influenced that evolution?
So I would say it's evolved greatly because I've gotten much more authentic in the last couple of years. I've gotten much more comfortable with myself. And that's just so refreshing because for a long time I was going on stage and just walking through motions, like rehearsing something and maybe I had a nice bit or I had a nice routine, but then I'd get on stage and I just would kind of be false. I would kind of drop out of like what you and I are doing right now, talking back and forth. I would just kind of go up there and try to perform it, and it was exhausting. And, sometimes it might get laughs, but I had just a lot of different things happen in my life that kind of woke me up. And then I didn't have the I didn't have the ability to be false in my stand-up anymore because I was just so awake in my life that I was like, oh, well, I'm not trading this for anything. If I'm going to go on stage, I'm going to hopefully be as emotionally real as I am right now. Like, it's not like you share every, thing that comes up.
Yeah.
It's not like you don't have a filter, but I think I just got more real in my life, in who I was, getting to know myself, and I think that's showing now in my stand-up. Not always. There's still moments where I'm like, oh, what am I talking about? That's ridiculous. Even going like this, what is this? But I think I'm more true now.
Okay. And a lot of comedians, when they go on stage, they start making fun of the audience. Is that like part of the act, or is it something they do?
I think a lot of people kind of see that in stand-ups, right? Like I hear people say, oh, I'm not going to the comedy club. I don't want someone to pick on me. Yeah. I think that maybe that was a thing for a long time. Okay. Like even going to improv shows, right? People are like, well, they're going to ask me for a suggestion. And now I'm feeling like, I'm exposed in the audience because I might say something stupid. So I think there definitely are comics who will do that. But in my opinion, it's just not something I'm interested in. I'm not interested in watching, any comic who is leading with that. I think, it's always neat to see if someone in the audience is going after the comic and the comic then is responding. And it's like, that's really neat to see because people in the audience think they're going to be skilled at something someone's been doing for decades, But it's not something I'm really interested in.
Okay, so do you have any particular process or routine when preparing for a performance before you go on stage?
Yeah. Well, I usually wonder if the show's going to get canceled and I can go home. That's my first thought. I don't know what that's all about. But there's always this thought of like, oh, maybe this isn't happening. No, it is. Okay. All right. No, I'm committed. I'm doing it. What's my process? Well, you know what I have realized in the last couple of years? I walked into the Improv a couple of years ago to go see a friend just to watch a show. And I hadn't done stand-up in a couple of weeks. And as soon as I walked in, someone came up to me and said, Mary, we don't have a host. Something happened. The host wasn't showing up. They knew that I had hosted there before. They said, can you host? And I was like, sure. And the guy said, great, let's go. It was literally about, I don't know, maybe 90 seconds from when I walked in to walking on stage. Maybe it was a little bit more than that. I might be exaggerating. But I was like, oh my gosh. I was so nervous and it went fine. But what that taught me is never, ever walk into a comedy club unless you're ready to walk on stage. If you think you're just going there to relax, great, good for you. I hope you do have a nice night out. But I learned at that moment, oh, I'm walking into a workplace. If anyone knows that I'm a comic, I have to be ready.
Yeah.
And it also just happened to me a few months ago at Flappers. I went out of the country for a while, and I came back, and I just came to Flappers to see someone. And the manager came up to me and said, Mary, someone just canceled on Laurie Kilmartin. Can you go on stage and do 20 to 25 minutes, which is a pretty big amount for a comic to do at the drop of a hat. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like you're just going to go up and do 5 minutes. You're going to have a nice little set. And I remember saying to her, oh, no, I can't. I'm just here hanging out. And she turned around and walked away. And then I woke up. I'm like, what am I doing? And I got her back and I said, oh, Taylor, yes, of course I can go up. And she's like, great. And then, I just took a few minutes and I created a set and it was fantastic. But I don't know why I'm always trying to get out of performing. But yes, I've learned. Don't leave the house until you're ready if you're going to the club.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good
Do your work at home and then go out.
Go prepared.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, because as soon as you think you're not doing it, you're doing it.
You're going on stage.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe that should be the way comics get on stage. They just think, oh, I'm not going to do this. And then they show up. I don't know.
Well, that's a good thing. I mean, when they see you, they'll be like, hey, help us. We need we need you to go on stage. That means you're funny and they want you to go on stage.
Exactly. Yeah, except now when I'm trying to get some extra time, I get dressed up, I go to the club. I'm like, hey, do you guys have any room? They're like, no, Mary, we're booked tonight.
So the first time you went on stage, I'm sure you were nervous. Do you remember the first time you went on stage performing?
I do, yeah. I do. I actually started out in a comedy duo with a friend in college. And I wasn't so nervous with her because she didn't think that any of our jokes and sketches were going to go over. So I had to be the one to believe that it was going to happen because I kind of roped her into it. So I don't remember, I wasn't really nervous in the beginning. I think something happens with stand-up comedy in Los Angeles, or I'm guessing maybe New York too, is that there's a lot of people out here who teach these classes where you take the class for 6 weeks and you create a set and then they put you up in a showcase, That, by the way, that's not my workshops. My workshops are not that. And not that I'm against them. I've definitely taught those for comedy clubs. But anyway, there's these showcases in Los Angeles where you work on a set and all your friends and family come to the show. So you go out on stage for the first time as a comic, everybody's laughing, everybody's loving you, and you kind of walk off that stage thinking, oh, I know how to do stand-up comedy. You don't. You might have had a great first set, but that's not reality. So what happens is those stand-ups have a great first set, and they're like, oh, I got a tape now. I'm going to send it to the clubs, and then inevitably you start to bomb because that's what has to happen. You have to actually learn how it's not working before you learn how to make it work. I'm guessing it's kind of like, isn't Babe Ruth the hitter who struck out the most? That's why he has the most home runs, but it's also because he struck out the most, right?
I see what you're saying.
I'm assuming it's similar.
So you got to go through the experience,
yes,
and you got to go through, bumps here and there,
absolutely,
before you get to the top.
Yep, you have to learn how to bomb because you're going to bomb. I mean, there's just no way around it. Most jokes don't work, and so that first set with all your friends and family in that little showcase with the class is kind of a false start, because it's going to be a great night. And you've worked on that set and you've had a lot of input from other people and the teacher, but it's not the reality. The reality is going up night after night, not doing well, being uncomfortable, dealing with that, not running off stage and crying, right? But dealing with it and then listening to it and going, oh, okay, how can I make it better? And I'm going to go up again and again and again. That's really what stand-up comedy is. When you're a beginner's level, you're going up at open mics. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of other stand-ups watching, and you might have a few people off the street, but it's kind of like this this rehearsal of just, we're doing stand-up, but it's not for the big show. Those performers are professional, most of them, coming out on stage in an evening that you go out, on a date to a comedy club. You're paying $20, $30, I'm assuming, for a ticket. It's going to be great stand-ups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And sometimes we see that the comedians, they when they perform on stage, let's say they did it in North Hollywood, then they go to Santa Monica, then they go to Hollywood. And if you go to more than one performance for the same comedy or comedian, then they repeat the same thing over and over again. So do they write the jokes and they memorize it and then they get new jokes? And is that how it goes?
I think everyone works a little differently. There's so many different styles of stand-up, but there could be someone who writes their jokes and they craft them in a very particular way. They know every word that they're saying. They know where the joke is. They know if they change this one word, they might get a stronger laugh. So there are people that work that way. And then there's other people I know who they never write anything. They actually go on stage and they say it, they test it out, they record themselves, and they perform it, and they kind of hear it and they feel it. They probably do have some things written down, but some people are going out there with, talking to the audience first and letting that kind of lead to the first joke. Other people are going, I don't know what I'm going to do tonight. Maybe I'm going to pick while I'm on stage, I'm going to pick a little bit of this routine and then I'm going to add this. So each stand-up is so different and so unique. But I would say for the most part, generally, a stand-up is going on stage with a general idea of the jokes that they're going to do, or at least the routines that they're going to do, and probably kind of know the order of it. And I'm just kind of saying that, I could be wrong, but because it's a time issue. We know how much time we're expected to do. If I'm told that I'm going on stage to do 15 minutes, I have to kind of know what 15 minutes looks like. I know this one routine is 4 minutes. And then if I'm going to talk to the audience, I'm going to do that for 3 minutes. And so you're kind of always doing this math in your head and adjusting, because right before you go on stage, sometimes the club owner or the manager will come up to you and say, someone else just walked in that I have to put up. So instead of 10, you're now doing 7. So you're constantly adjusting.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. And talking about the audience, how do you deal with the tough audience? Like they try to be funny and they want to be funnier than you, and they saying these different things.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
For me, what I have found is that I befriend them. I have tried other things where I've gotten kind of crude and rude and said it back to them, and that gets a laugh, but it's like, okay, now what? Now I just, said something that was nasty to someone for a laugh. It's not my thing. But I definitely, you explore these different ways of being on stage. So for me, what I have found is if I can find a way to get in there with the person and befriend them, it works better for me and my material. For instance, I'll just give you an example. I performed at an Elks Club in Washington State about a year ago, and they had never had comedy there before. So I was part of the first show that a booker brought me in to headline. They had never done comedy before. So I walk into the Elks Club, and I see, about 200 people in the room, and they're all drinking, and they're all talking, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is, I had to think for a minute, I don't know if they're going to want to hear about me and, my fears of alligators or dating. So basically what I did is I got some information about the board members. They all have this board of different members, and they have pictures of the board members in the hallway. So I kind of got a little bit of information about all the cabinet or board members, and I kind of made a, a game show about them. And I went on stage talking about their board members. Now they're all excited because I'm doing material about them because I'm coming to their party. I was like, I don't think they're going to come to my party tonight. They're all engaged with one another. It almost felt like I was walking into like, a frat party. So you kind of figure that out with every show. If, you might perform at a senior center, or, I've done like blood drives in hospitals, and some people seem to be half asleep. So you're thinking, oh, maybe I'll do more of the storytelling, or, I'm probably not going to do that loud bit tonight. You're always kind of adjusting and thinking, what is my audience? What is my audience? But anyway, so there was this one guy at the Elks Club, and his name was Loud Steve. Someone told me, oh, see that guy down in the front? His name is Loud Steve. And I was like, oh, I don't know if Loud Steve is going to want to listen to me doing stand-up. So when I was on stage, I remember a moment I was like, where's Loud Steve? And then, he got to tell me who he was and where, he was right there in the front. And then I kind of made him part of the act. So I was always referring back to, and what Loud Steve thinks about that. That was a good way in for me, because now Loud Steve loves me, the audience loves me, and they feel like I have come to them as opposed to making them come to me, which some comics can do. Some comics can go up there and be like, this is all about me. But for me, I'd rather kind of play to my audience.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there was a connection.
There was, yeah. Because I thought, if his name is Loud Steve, what, is he going to be loud throughout my entire set? How am I going to deal with that? So I just thought, let's bring him in right away. And what's really neat? At the end of the show, he came up to me and he said, oh my gosh, thank you so much for performing. He was the nicest, sweetest man. So here was someone that I was kind of scared of before I went on stage. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, he was such a sweetheart. And I was like, I kind of want Loud Steve at all my shows, So yeah, that's a good way in.
All right. Excellent. And can you share like a memorable moment or highlight from your career in comedy?
Yes, absolutely. So for me, the highlight of my stand-up career so far has been getting booked on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, for so many reasons. One, because I think I told you earlier about that stand-up that I saw on Letterman. His name is Wayne Cotter. Seeing him do a late night set when I was a teenager really, I was so excited once I got a late night set. But also because my daughter went with me. Mm-hmm. I took my daughter out to New York when I was on the show, and having her there and having her backstage with me was just absolutely thrilling. And also, I'm a huge Beatles fan, and Stephen Colbert the show was shot at the Ed Sullivan Theater in New York, where the Beatles were on Ed Sullivan in 1964. So that was just really, really exciting for me, being a lifelong Beatles fan, to even be inside the Ed Sullivan Theater. And then my daughter is a Beatles fan, so the fact that she was there and I was there, it was just magical. It was just an amazing weekend for me to experience, that part of my career. But having my daughter there as well was just, it was mind-blowing.
Wow. When was that?
2018.
2018. Okay.
Yeah. Now she's 19.
I'm gonna look for it on YouTube.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
It's on YouTube, right?
It is. Yeah.
Okay.
It
So
is.
if I type in your name,
Yeah.
The Late Show,
Yeah.
I can see it.
Absolutely. I feel like everything's on YouTube now. Is there anything not on YouTube?
It's like the encyclopedia of the world.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it? It's rare now that I feel like when I'm not able to find something on there, I'm like, oh, I don't even know if I want to watch it now.
Yeah. And I watch YouTube every day.
That's great. Do you kind of go down a rabbit hole once you get on it?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times I educate myself. I go to where, I need to know more about cameras, or I need to know more technical stuff. And I look at these videos. But sometimes I go on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook Shorts, and I keep scrolling, and that's like just a waste of time.
It's very addictive, isn't it? Do you do it late at night? Like,
I do it before I go to sleep sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I go to sleep at 10 and I don't go to sleep until 12.
Yeah, I hear you.
I'm like, oh my God, I just spent 2 hours.
I know. I've definitely done that too. But I have to say, I mean, I know a lot of people say that it's addicting and, waste of time and stuff, but I've also been very entertained when I have scrolled. I'm like, stuff I would never have seen.
Oh, yeah.
And I haven't watched a lot of television lately. So I don't know. For me, it's kind of like, it is fun.
It is fun.
Right? I guess if you can keep it in check.
Yeah, but that's the problem.
Yeah, I
don't
know.
keep it in check.
I know. That's really
I'm
true.
supposed to sleep now, but
Yeah,
just maybe 5-10 minutes and it leads to 2 hours.
absolutely. Yeah, but it's funny. I do it also late at night, but I'm thinking, but at least I didn't start my morning with it, right? Because if you're going to start with it, then you might not ever get off,
Yeah.
right?
The only problem I have in the morning is that I check my email right away.
You do?
Which I have to stop.
Yeah,
I don't have to look at the phone at all.
right.
For maybe half hour, then I can look at
Yeah.
my email and go about my day.
Yeah, because then there's nothing just for you, right? When you first wake up, I'm guessing, I feel like that time in the morning is so precious to,
Yeah.
it's like before anything starts, it's just you're kind of setting the pace for what you're going to, be like that day.
And sometimes when I wake up early in the morning, I don't go on my phone. I don't even open my computer.
That's great.
I don't want to see anything. I just
Yeah.
want to sit by myself for 10, 15 minutes,
Yeah.
drink coffee and whatever. I don't meditate, but
You don't?
just
Do you feel like that's kind of a meditation though, right there?
I mean, maybe. I mean, I don't close my eyes and I try to think good stuff or good thoughts because I tried that and it didn't work. Every time I do that, I keep thinking about things.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think meditation is really what the person makes it to be. I think people think that meditation is this formal way and there's only this one way of doing it. But I mean, like sitting in the morning, eyes open, just with a cup of coffee, that's absolutely thrilling in my mind. I love it. And I do think it's your form of meditation.
I think so too.
Yeah, because it's about how you feel about it. If it's setting you up for kind of this peaceful or positive start of your day, I don't know. I'm really into meditation, and it wasn't until recently that I learned that there is no formal way of meditation. There's different types of meditation, and someone might argue one type against the other, but I realized I had been meditating for years without knowing it, which was I like to get up super early and sit like in the living room with a cup of coffee in quiet. And that was a meditation for me, because I was just really quieting my mind and I just enjoy it so much. So anyway.
I think if the purpose of meditation is to make you feel good about yourself,
Yeah.
then me waking up in the morning and just sit by myself for 10 minutes having coffee or just, sitting by myself without the coffee, that makes me feel good.
Yeah, I think that's great because it's kind of like a reset. You know what I mean?
Another way is that I wake up and I go, not hiking, but I go to Griffith Park and I
Cool.
walk for like 45 minutes.
That's great.
Early in the morning.
I love that.
Not super early, but
Yeah.
maybe 6:30, 7 o'clock.
Wow.
And, it's really nice.
Yeah.
And, on a Saturday morning or maybe Sunday morning. And that makes me feel good as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love all that. I find the early morning to be the most exciting part of my day, my night. It's funny because I know a lot of comics, they stay up really late. And I know a lot of people, they stay up really late. I tend to get up really early. And sometimes when people are going to sleep, I'm actually waking up, but I feel like I've gotten made fun of it for a long time. Like, oh, what are you doing up so early? I'm like, it is the most exciting thing for me.
Exactly.
I'm assuming it's what other people feel like when they're awake at 2 a.m. I'm like, oh my God, 4 a.m., love it.
Yep.
I just love it.
Yeah, I'm a morning person. I discovered that I'm a morning person.
Did you?
But when I was younger, I used to wake up at 4 p.m.
Really?
because I used to go, especially
Were you staying up all night?
Yeah, staying up all night, and we used to go to the city back. I lived in Jersey at the time.
Oh,
We used
did
to
you?
go to New York City, and we just, Yeah, it was like crazy time back then. But I was a lot younger. I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
But now things are different.
Yeah, that's true. Kind of maybe different stages, right?
Yeah.
But some people will swear by, like, they're like, no, I'm a night owl. I've always been a night owl. I'm not changing. That's great. Like, that's great for them. I've always been, even as a child, I would get up super early in the morning and watch this children's TV show that I really liked 2 hours before I went to school. Like, it was just my thing, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah.
It could be anything as long as
Yeah.
you feel good, I guess.
I know. Yeah. And if it's, for me, I think it's what is serving me throughout the day. If I have that time in the morning, I notice that I'm showing up more in my life calm, able to respond, not react to something, right? And just kind of, I don't know, just more mindful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And all that comes with experience.
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that brings us to a question. How do you balance comedy with, other aspects of your personal and professional life?
Let's see, have I balanced comedy with my personal life? I think so. When I go to the club now today, that is my social circle. Like, I get so excited going to the stand-up comedy club to see people that I adore. And performing is often, I'm glad to perform, but it's almost an afterthought because I'm so excited to see the people that I love at the club. So that's been really nice. I didn't know that was going to happen. I thought I was only going to the club because I wanted to be a stand-up comic. Been very focused on my career for decades. Now I'm actually more of a real person. So yes, I do think it's very much blended into my personal life. And then was the other question, has stand-up comedy blended into my career?
Yeah, your personal life and career.
Yeah, I think so, because I'm really excited to do these workshops with people, a lot of actors, using stand-up comedy as a tool for wellness. I mean, I am like on the edge of my seat, vibrating with excitement in these workshops, and I'm really feeling it back from the people in the workshop as well. So yeah, I think it has really intersected with my career.
All right.
Yeah.
And talking about the workshop, if I may ask you this question, you were talking about clean comedy versus non-clean comedy.
Yeah.
Can you explain that?
Yeah. Yeah. Usually in the workshop, someone inevitably asks me, should I be a clean comedian or a R-rated or adult-rated comedian? And there's many school of thoughts, but I always tell people, what do you want to do? Like, what naturally kind of comes to the surface for you? Some people, they just, I think what's most important is that the person feels comfortable on stage. So my friend, she's a mom, but she swears like a sailor. So when she does her comedy, there's going to be swearing on stage because that's just the way she talks. So she's still, talking about like homeschooling or soccer practice, but, it's in her tone and her language. So she might be considered more of not so much a clean comedian, right? For me, I've always been attracted to clean comedy because look at me, it's kind of who I am. I kind of have this, oh geez, thing about me. I'm from Wisconsin. And also, I really love being on TV. So for stand-up comedy, at least for, not maybe a Netflix special or a streaming show, but for most TV, network TV, it is more, how can I say, well, it's going to be more commercial. It's going to be more clean comedy.
Like
Yes, families are in the room. You just always think, who could be in the room if a TV's on? Children, So yeah, I've always been a clean comedian. And there's also more work for clean comedians. There's colleges, there's churches, there's cruises. You can do adult-rated material on cruises too, but military.
Hospitals.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there's just much more for clean. And I want to work.
Yeah.
I want to make money.
But not HBO, right? HBO, they don't have any clean material.
Well, that's true. You're right. That probably is more adult-rated, but I think again it comes down to the comedian, right? Chris Rock is Chris Rock, so he like that's who he is, you know. But then I've also heard comedians say, "Well, I do swear, but I'm clean because this is my career and I'm on TV." You know, like do you remember Bob Saget?
Yes.
Yes, so he was a very adult-rated comedian on stage, right? And I don't know if this would cross over so much these days, but being on Full House, very family-oriented. I don't even know if people back in the day knew at the time what his stand-up comedy in a club was like. I don't know if that would happen so much these days. Today, it feels like we're more who we are across the board. You know, like if you're on Nickelodeon, I'm assuming if you're a stand-up comedian, you probably might be a little bit cleaner these days, but I don't know, but yeah. And then people always say, well, can I do both? The thing is, if you write a joke and let's say it's very kind of adult rated, and let's say it's a joke and people love it, it's very hard to take that material and change it and make it. You just can't. It comes out a certain way, you know? So I think you are one or the other, in my opinion.
So is being a stand-up comedian, is it something that anybody can learn?
It's a good question, Mike. Get asked this a lot. Well, here's the thing. I think people can learn the tools, what it takes to do stand-up, whether or not, you know, they have what maybe a natural sense of timing or being able to communicate ideas or even connect with other people. That, I'm assuming, is probably maybe in you or seems foreign to you. Like I've definitely met people where I'm like, oh, you've been in some classes for a very long time and you're not funny, you know? So, but, here's the thing. I think if they're getting something out of it, good for them. I noticed this one club that I was teaching at, I noticed how much the classes for some people were about community. Like, I kind of like to end the class when it's over. If we're like 10 minutes before the class ends and we've done a whole bunch of comedy, it's time to go home. And then someone was like, well, Mary, aren't you going to go all the way till 9? And I'm like, oh, okay. Why? And then I realized because they're there for friendship and community and connection. So even though we had done everything that we were going to do in that class, they didn't want to go home until it was 9 o'clock. I don't know. So that's what I'm learning, is that everybody comes for a different reason. You know, like, you know, I might be in a class just because I want to kind of improve some knowledge or technique, but actually now I'm learning I kind of like to do classes to meet people too. So I get it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Connections and networking and all that stuff.
Yeah. And some people are very lonely too, right? They might be very lonely. I know I've been lonely at times. And so it's like, I'm sure that's why I love going to the comedy club. You know, it's kind of like my cheers. You know, it's like, oh, wow, people there get me and know me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a good point, that people are lonely.
Yeah.
A lot of people, and I don't know, I think the whole United States, not just California, but yeah, it's a problem.
Right.
And you know, when they watch, you know, a comedy for half hour or maybe an hour, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, it makes them happy.
Right.
And, you know, you just put joy in their heart. And I think that's a very good thing.
Yeah, it's so powerful. I had no idea really until the last few years, especially coming out of the pandemic, right? Us feeling isolated. And yeah, I really am seeing more and more the power of, I love going to a show. It's usually a smaller show. It might be something that I've been hired for, like a private event. I love going and making a show just for the people who are there that night. And what I mean by that is I used to do these singing telegrams in college. I used to get hired to do singing telegrams. And the guy who hired me did not know that I could not sing. I can't sing. And what I would do is he'd get the call for a singing telegram. He'd tell me, okay, you're going to go to this party and do a singing telegram. All I would do is call the person who's sending the telegram and say, can you tell me everything about Joe that you can? And I would interview them for like an hour on the phone about their friend Joe. And then I would just write jokes specifically about Joe, for Joe, with all his friends and everything that I had learned about him in the costume that I was sent. And, it might be a little sing-songy in the beginning, but there was no singing. And they just loved it. It was just a personal performance just for Joe that was all about Joe. And I realized then, very young in college, this power of you can make people feel so welcomed, so important by having a performance that is just for them. So I love getting to shows early now and being like, oh, who's coming tonight? Oh, can I write some jokes just for that party, just for that group? Or what's going on right now, in our city today that only the people there will understand. It's so personal, and I can just see it in their eyes. They're just looking at me like, we're connected, as opposed to just me going on stage and doing some, routine and not really making eye contact. It's like, who cares?
Yeah.
It might be funny at one time or something, but now I'm much more interested in the people sitting in front of me than I am myself.
I was going to ask you that, when you go to hospitals and you perform there,
Yeah.
that's a really noble thing because, people are sick and they
Yeah.
just want to, hear something funny. They want to
Yeah.
laugh. They want to, not think about the siren.
Good timing, Mike. There goes one now. That's my audience for tomorrow night.
So I think that's a really noble thing, to do.
Thank you. I definitely get far more out of it than you could ever imagine, right? I do a lot of these cancer support groups where people are in treatment and they come for the show. Oh my gosh, that is so amazing. And also, I think one of the best audiences for me is the recovery houses. I think they're called halfway houses. I'm not quite sure.
Halfway
Is that
houses.
okay?
Yeah, it's a halfway house.
Oh my gosh. I have never felt more love and connection in a room than people there who are so excited and grateful that you are there tonight. And I never even really understood it. I was like, what is going on? I didn't know much about addiction. I didn't know much about recovery. And it's just palpable that, we're all here right now. We're all alive and we're all experiencing this. It's just hands down the greatest thing that I have experienced is an audience of recovery.
Oh,
Yeah, really neat.
So how do you get these gigs?
So many different ways. I know a couple of people that eventually I was just kind of introduced to through different comics, you start getting kind of like your number gets kind of forwarded to people. So I have a couple of people in town that book these shows. A lot of them are just really random and odd shows. And then how else? Through other comics. A comic might say, hey, Mary, can you come open for me? I'm doing this, private event. Or I couldn't do it and I've passed your name along to them.
Okay.
So yeah, just a myriad of different ways.
Okay. So can you get them through an agency or?
I think there are agents for comics. I have never found that to be. I have found everything for me. It's been kind of like pounding the pavement and personal connection. Okay. But I know that there are booking agents for comedians. And I have worked with one or two in the country that have sent me to some neat places. But yeah, I have not been kind of at that level of like someone who's like, oh, we've got you booked. Okay. Yeah.
All right. And what advice would you give an aspiring comedian, looking to break into the industry?
I would say that if I was looking to break in right now, I would create my own place to perform. That was another thing I was going to say with, how do you kind of get booked in places and how do you find out about these shows around town? A great way is to make one yourself. So I've done shows before where, I had a space and then a friend and we started kind of doing this monthly show, and it starts to really build rather quickly once people find out about it. First off, every comic will be contacting you because you now have a place to perform in town. And then when other comics are contacting you, if you're booking them, you can then say, hey, do you have any spots for me? So it's a very kind of like back and forth thing where people will go out of their way sometimes to book someone who runs a room because they want to play that room. So there's a lot of kind of favors in that sense. But I would say, yeah, create a space, even if it's like, a backyard, a coffee shop. I did a blood drive that was a lot of fun. There's so many places that comedy can drop into that I think that's a great way. You would meet so many people, and it's all about stage time. So if you have your own show and you're going up every time because you're the host, or you're going to at least, you might book all these other comics, but you're going to make sure that you have a few minutes on stage, that would be a great way to really serve yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, I think. Okay. Yeah, because it's hard to get stage time in Los Angeles because there's so many people here. And, it's not like going to another part of the country. If you go to another part of the country, you're a stand-up comic and you get on a show, you're probably getting paid. But in Los Angeles, it's like, oh, we're not paying you. We could have anyone we wanted.
That's true.
Yeah, so it's shorter sets for no pay. That's why I think creating a space or creating your own show, it doesn't even have to be in a particular space. Mm-hmm. It could be a show that you create that you travel around to different hair salons or, that's a good idea.
Man, hair salon. Yeah, why not?
Right? Yeah.
And of course, you have to take acting classes, and you got to go to improv classes and workshops.
For stand-ups, you think?
Yeah.
Do you think so?
No, I'm asking.
Oh, that was a good way of asking. It was good. Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say, yeah, do that.
I don't know. Well, that's interesting. It's interesting you brought that up because I think for me, I have spun a lot of plates in the last few decades.
Okay.
Which serves me because I can act, I can write, and I can do stand-up, and I'm a cartoonist. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it's like, pick a lane. You know what I mean? Like I know comics who just do stand-up comedy, and they're amazing, right? That hasn't been my path. I've had many different career paths, and I love them all. I wouldn't even know how to drop one. But I don't know if that is advice that I would give to someone.
Okay.
I might say, hey, if you have a passion for improv and you love improv, go and do that all the time, because you're just going to get really good. And I think anything now can evolve into something else. But, I kind of sometimes dilute myself with so many different things.
I see.
Because I did stand up for a long time and then my acting career took off. Mm-hmm. And I didn't do stand up for a while. And, then I forgot how to do stand up. And then when I went back into it, it was very difficult. So that was fine for me, but I don't think you need to do all these different things. Maybe, I know there's a book I just read about how you should do all these different things, but I don't know. What do you think? Do you like doing many different things?
I've been to, I took improv classes, I took on-camera classes, I took scene study classes, I took your workshop because I wanted to see what, stand-up is all about because I know nothing about it.
Yeah, and was it helpful to get a little insight?
Yes, I did. Yeah. I have more information right now. I don't know if this is something I can do, to be honest with you. I don't think I'm a funny person when I go on stage. Or
Okay.
maybe I will be a funny person.
Yeah.
I don't know. 'Cause
Yeah.
You got to do it to know, right?
Absolutely, or at least see how you feel.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not something I wanted to do, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's something I maybe would experience.
Yeah.
And then go from there.
I think that's great. Kind of
Yeah.
exploring it, right?
Exploring and see if this is something I would, consider, or this is something I wouldn't consider. I know acting. I love acting. I take acting classes and improv. I took improv classes because they say, you expand your creative mind
Yeah.
when you take improv classes plus acting classes.
Yeah.
So it works like hand in hand.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to take your workshop just to know, okay, what's the stand-up is all about.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, there's just so many things that are so much fun, aren't there? Like, I feel like, I could love to go take tap dancing and then maybe learn how to do dialects better and accents and play the guitar and all these things. But then at the end of the day, I'm just like, wow, I'm exhausted.
Exactly.
I'm just working on stand-up right now.
It gets overwhelming.
It does, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't think I would recommend that to a person. I would have them maybe be a little bit more kind of self-directed, unless it's just like, oh, the one missing piece is that if you had some singing now, you're doing musical theater, maybe you could take some voice lessons. Like, I understand that if it fits in with the puzzle, but to do it just to do it, I don't think so. I don't think it's necessary.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Right?
'Cause I didn't know.
Okay. Yeah.
Now I know.
Yeah. I feel like we're all being asked to do so many things now that it's like, boy, it's just refreshing when in my day I only have one or two things that I do, And I mean, I just also see how the muscle gets so good when you just kind of allow yourself to really sink into one thing. Like, this is really the first time in my life, I think, that I've really been focused on stand-up because there's no auditions and none of my scripts have sold. And stand-up is kind of the one thing that I can do that is just me. And I'm so grateful that I have it. So I'm taking it a little more serious these days because it's revenue for me. And I love it because it gets me to use my mind in a way that can often get lazy. And I think as I age now, with memory and problem solving and just communication skills, there is such a difference if I'm performing stand-up or not. Oh my gosh, it's night and day.
I see.
Yeah, so I feel like I'm doing it now just to kind of like keep myself as a functioning person. In fact, what's really funny? I can't remember. Sometimes I can't remember my jokes. So I've been doing them in alphabetical order. And I've been telling the audience, look, I can't remember my routine. So we're going A through F tonight. First bit is let's talk about Amazon. Like, I really had to kind of put them in alphabetical order at times. But then if I'm doing stand-up every day, I don't need to do tricks like that. But like when you're acting, do you or how are you with memorization of lines?
I try not to memorize. I try to read the script over and over and over again. So this way I learn it.
Wow.
Memorizing it.
I love that.
Because I used to memorize and you keep thinking about the line.
Yeah.
Okay, should I, what is that word? This word is before this word. I have to say this line now.
Yeah.
You keep thinking about that, and you shouldn't be thinking about that as far as I know, when acting, because you want to have the word or the words like yours.
Yeah.
And then you play with it.
So I'm assuming you kind of get it into your DNA, like you absorb it and then you let it go.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly.
That's cool.
And they say as soon as you know that you memorized or learned all the words, go ahead and do it again.
Love it.
So this way you have it again.
Yeah. And Mike, if you take time off from that, then is it more difficult when you come back to it and you haven't read a script in a while? Like, do you feel like it's a muscle of,
It is a muscle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a muscle.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You train the muscle. The more
Yeah.
you do it, the better you get at it.
Right.
And they say, acting is doing. So if you want to be a better actor, you have to act.
is that why then you continue on with, if you're not working, you're in class?
Yeah, I'm in class. If I'm not working, I'm in class.
That's great.
And I try to do my own thing now.
Oh, that's right, with producing your own
Working
content.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
For movies, and just post them on YouTube and post them on IMDb. Just be active and
Yeah.
creative.
That's
instead
great.
of just going to class, which is good, but
Right.
I feel like I need to do more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I get it. I get it. Yeah.
it's as they say, it's a marathon. It's not a race.
Yep.
So it's gonna take a long time.
Yeah.
Hopefully not, but it's gonna take a while.
Yeah.
Before
It's definitely the journey, isn't it?
you can depend on it for just income, and you can do it full time, I guess.
Yeah. And I think too, it comes down to like, if you would not be happy if you weren't doing it. Like, if I wasn't doing stand-up now, I would really, I'd be missing a lot. Where I didn't think about that years ago. I was like, well, I don't know, I'm going to do stand-up because I want to get on a TV show. It's like, oh, that was just for such a bad reason. Because I was looking for this result, right? Result-oriented. So my stand-up was not interesting or good in many ways. Where now, it's just stand-up for stand-up,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. So, anything else you would like to add?
I don't think so. This has been really nice. Yeah. Really great.
It was wonderful.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm good. I mean, I'm good. Yeah, that was weird. I'm good. Hey. Thank you.
Well, no, thank you.